The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
If you want to know where the storm rolls next, you got to read the clouds over old Midwest. Every yard, every basket, every mat that's worn. You learn to see the future by tracking the storm. We're tracking the storm, watching it form. From Jack Trice's courage to the heroes yet born. Hilton lights shining like lightning in the night. Jack Trice way, glowing in the stadium lights. From the sweat in the barn to the roar in the stands. Every Cyclone story's written in the land. Yeah, the path gets clearer with each legend swarm. We're keeping eyes on tomorrow by tracking the storm. Dwayne Crutchfield, pounding turf like rain. Big 8 Saturdays, driving through the pain. 2 years, rushing past 1,000 on the ground. Made the whole conference feel that thunder sound. Then Troy Davis hit the hole like a flash. Back to back, 2,000 turn records into ash. Heisman nights, but win or lose that day. The Cyclone in his chest never blew away. Seneca rolled out, crowd holding its breath. The run cut like lightning through Tex Red West. 112-yard touchdown, 100 yards more. Sometimes a single scramble rewrites the law. So if you want to know.
Kent, how are we, buddy?
Man, we're great. Great. I'm excited about our guest.
Yeah, man. I tell you, going back into just what we've talked about for the last, 3 months now, and talking about the different athletes that have gone through Iowa State, different coaches that have gone through Iowa State. And we talked a little bit about it this week about, my Mount Rushmore, your Mount Rushmore, whatever we have, and I'll go through it. My Mount Rushmore starts with Dan Gable. I mean, he kind of put it all on the map with all the wins in a row in the Olympic championships. Of course, you got to go to George Niang with what he did with the basketball team. And then you got Brock Purdy and what he's done. But my guy that sits on the Mount Rushmore is our guest tonight. And love to bring him on board, Danny Harris from Paris.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Man, everything is great, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. Very good.
Good to see you, Danny.
Are you back out in California now?
I am. I'm actually in Pasadena, California, about 2 miles from the Rose Bowl, about 3 miles from Dodger Stadium, about 3.5 miles from where the Lakers play. So I'm right near downtown in the city of Pasadena, right where they have the Rose Parade.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just there. I was at
Danny,
the Rose Bowl this year. We live in Indiana now, and our kids went to IU, and so we were in Palm Springs for Christmas. And since IU made it, we thought, well, let's go to the Rose Bowl. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, Shockey, next time you come west of the Rockies and you don't say hello to your boy right here in Pasadena, I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah, well,
how about
you can
that?
run, but you can't hide from me.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. And
Danny,
can't run.
Keith said in the intro that you're from Paris. So just for clarification, Paris, California, not Paris.
It's spelled Perris, about 70 miles east of Los Angeles.
That's a great start for us, Danny, because we're going to go through some of your accolades as we go along. But how you got to Iowa State, how that happened? I know you were a phenom hurdler, 300-meter hurdler that they ran in high school. So how did that happen? How did you get to Ames? We're going to cover a lot of ground as fast as we can, but tell us that.
I'll tell you how I got to Ames. So my junior year, I was a receiver because my coach wouldn't allow me to play running back because we had a running back who happened to be my cousin. Last 4 games of the season, last 3 games of the season, he was suspended from the team. And we played a team called Verban Day, which was here in Los Angeles. And John Fox, the DB coach at Iowa State when I was there, who recruited me, was there to see another player. In the last 3 games, I think I had 407 yards in the last 3 games at running back. We lost that game 7-0. I had a good game, had 101 yards in the game as tailback. Coach Fox saw me, started to recruit me, got in contact with me, and I ended up being on Iowa State's radar. Let me scratch that. Not Iowa State's radar, Boise State's radar. Kreiner was at Boise State at the time. So I actually took a trip to Boise, liked the trip to Boise, enjoyed the trip very much, was going to sign with Boise State, and then Jim Kreiner took the job at Iowa State, and then everything went from Boise State to Iowa State. They still recruited me and still wanted me there, that being Coach Fox. And that's how I got to Ames, as a cornerback, not a running back.
Right. Right.
That's fantastic.
Well, how did the track piece fall into that, Danny? Excuse me, Keith.
No, you're good.
Well, track was always something I was very, very good at. League champion every year. Felt in California. Let me clarify this. In California, there's only one state champion. So what they do at the end of the year, they take the fastest 4 men and women, boys or girls, from the southern half of California, and they take the top 4 boys or girls from the northern half, and that's your state final. So if you're the state champion in California, there's only one state champion that covers all classes in all schools. My junior year, I had a mishap in the final of the 300 low hurdles. I hit the 5th hurdle and ended up 5th and out of the medals even. And my senior year, I was undefeated and ended the state meet with a national high school record of 35.52 seconds. That was for 300 low hurdles, and that was by my track career. So I knew I could run track on the college level, but I love football. You can see I have a football in my hand here. This is my comfort blanket. But I love football, wanted to play in the National Football League. That was my goal. Track was something that I always did because I was good at it and I enjoyed doing it very much, but never planned on participating in a 30-second Olympiad representing the United States. Never planned on that, never saw that, never dreamed of it.
Yeah, that I have fond memories of your recruiting trip to Iowa State. That was a great time. I know you were with KT and I for a little while, and then you were with Alvin Baker for a bit of time. So,
yep, absolutely. And let me say this, a quick story here. I don't know if you remember this, Shockey. The night we went out, I was with you and Kurt Thomas.
Yep.
And we stepped out of the dorms after having a meal. You took a snowball and you threw it at a car that had to be at least 80 yards away. Said you were going to hit it, and you put the snowball right on top of the car. And I was very, 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 very impressed with that. I thought that was a great throw, a great call, and a great conclusion to a wonderful story. It was a good deal.
When you grow up in Iowa, you learn how to do a couple things. You have dirt fights in the summer, and you throw snowballs in the winter.
Right. 80 yards on target. There you go.
I did go to Iowa State as a quarterback, and then they ended up with Alex Espinoza coming in and a few other guys. They moved me over to tight end at that time. So it was whatever we could do to be helpful to the team was what I always looked at. My coach coming out of high school says the most important responsibility you have on the team is to be the very best teammate. So that's right. That's one of the goals that I've always had, and one of the things that we always did. It was an absolute joy. We talk about your recruiting trip every time we get together. When we're at when we go to Greg Butts' house, we're all sitting around talking about the different players that have come through the system. And I do remember that story, and I do tell that story about throwing a snowball. But I'm glad you confirmed that it was an 80-yard throw. I said it was like 70, so they all laughed at me like, you didn't throw no snowball 70 yards. So I'm glad you made it 80. Thank you.
Trust me, I'm pretty good at distance. It was about 80, and it was on target. Confirmed. There you go.
So you can do that with snowballs, but track requires a little more accuracy. So, so let's get into that, Danny. You came in as a DB. and you went through, the freshman year, and all of a sudden we heard, this guy's a great hurdler and he's pretty good. So you would have come in the fall of 83, spring of 84, correct?
Right. Exactly.
So you had never run the 400 lows until March of 84.
That's true.
Is that
absolutely
correct?
It's true. Yep.
So tell us about your freshman season at Iowa State. Let's just get into it because nobody wants to hear us talk. We want to hear you talk. Never run it before, and it took off.
So what happened was I signed my letter of intent and my scholarship to Iowa State with the understanding from the coaching staff, the football coaching staff, that I'd be able to compete in track and field. So what ended up happening was after Christmas, of course, track and field season starts, as well as early morning workouts for the football team. So I didn't go to the early morning workouts because I had school, of course, that started at 8. I was out at 2:30, and then I had to go directly to track practice. So I was skipping the 4:30 morning workout. Coaches didn't like that very much, and they started sending the trainers to my dorm room to wake me up, which I was already up. But then they started to send coaches, and Coach Fox came, and I told him, I said, you guys promised me I could do this, and I can't go to early morning workout at 5:30 in the morning and go to class at 8 and then come back for practice at 2. Nobody wins with that. I'm too tired to go to track practice. I'm too tired to go to football practice, and I'm not the greatest student in the world, so I'm already struggling on that end trying to stay eligible. So Coach Kreiner made me a deal. He told me that I could run one meet, and depending on how I did, we would revisit the idea of me being able to run track. And I agreed to that. So the first meet indoors was at the Husker Invitational. And I'll never forget, we came into the Devaney Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, the indoor track facility. And in the middle of the track, which is a 200-meter track indoors, they had a spotlight, and there was a red Nebraska blanket, and they had the male and female athlete of the meet trophies sitting on those underneath the spotlight. Teammate of mine, Sunday Udy, came through as we went to the facility when we arrived in Lincoln to go and see where we were going to run. This would have been a Thursday evening when we arrived by bus. And Sunday Udy said, "That's my trophy," indicating that he was going to be the athlete of the meet. Me being a freshman, I didn't really have anything to say about that. But in my heart, I thought, we'll see about that, right? So Sunday and I are teammates. Sunday's a senior, I'm a freshman. So the meet goes off. I'm running 400 meters. There are 2 heats. They put me in the slow heat with the freshmen and the sophomores, and they don't even put me in the fast heat with Sunday UT and all the guys from Oklahoma, Danny Carter and Sunder Nix and all these guys. They don't put me in the fast heat. They put me in the slow heat. Now I'm pissed off. So from lane 6 of a 6-lane track, I run 45, 89, or 98, and that was the first heat, and that was the time to beat. So I stepped off the track and stood right there. I watched them set their blocks. I watched them run the second heat. They ran 46.2, which meant technically I was the winner on time, and I was the Big 8 champion for 400 meters indoors at my first go at it. That was great. After that, Sunday Udy was upset because things didn't go the way he planned, I think, and he told Coach Lynn, who was our coach at the time, my beloved Coach Steve Lynn, he said, "Let the freshman run the anchor. He's good. Let him run the anchor. He's the man." And I laughed, and I told Coach, I said, "Here comes Wally Pipp." And Sunday got mad and said, "I'm not Wally Pipp. Don't call me Wally Pipp. Me no Wally Pipp." And I said, "Coach, explain to him who Wally Pipp is." So Coach Lynn kind of laughed and said, I'll do that. And that was it. So I ran the anchor on the 4x4 relay. We won that. I won the Open 400. If I'm not mistaken, I might even, and we won the 4x4 relay. So I ended up being the athlete of the meet. And the first thing I did when the reporters came to me from Des Moines Register, and remember, we used to have the Big Peach, and every athlete's dream was to be on the Big Peach.
Yep.
And when I saw that, I thought immediately, Big Peach Sunday, here we go, right? So they interview me, and I tell the reporter, "Thank you to Coach Kreiner for having enough insight to allow me to run this indoor meet and to give me a chance, to do both sports." And that was the end of Coach Kreiner asking me not to run anymore. It also gave me an opportunity to be able to relax and do what I did naturally, was to go out and run fast and try to win races for the Cyclones.
That's awesome.
Well, and you did.
That was awesome.
I didn't know that. I didn't. Yeah. I didn't know that whole story. And oh man,
I remember hearing you and Michael Wade go back and forth at each other about 400 meter, about running the 400 meter, and you just kind of.
Yeah, Michael Wade's greatest attribute were two things. He was a hell of a receiver, right? Yeah. He was a great senior big brother to all the freshmen, particularly me. He respected what I did. I understood what he did. Was in awe of him as a receiver, but in track and field, I think he ran the 400, and he was not me, so he could not he could not school me or inform me about anything about running 400 meters, as my time as a freshman was faster than his time as a senior. So correct. He had to give me my props as I gave him his.
That's awesome. That was I remember sitting in the locker room with you guys going back and forth about it. It was laughing my ass off because I don't think he really understood just who he was talking to at the time.
I think he understood. I just think Michael Wade's personality was so light that I think he was giving it to me, but he was also kind of challenging me to see how fast I could go.
Sure. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Go ahead, Ken.
I have my own personal story with that. I talked to Danny a little bit prior to this, and I'm going to tell this. It's going to embarrass myself a little bit. It's not an 80-yard snowball story. So, receiver, I could run a little bit. I was a high school state 400-meter champion. And one time after practice, and the only reason I'm telling you that is to give you context of this. One time after practice, at the end, we're running sprints, and I'm by Dan. I'm gonna go get by Danny. And I think this might have been even after the fall. You came back after the Olympics, and I'm like, come on, let's see what you got. You would never remember this, Danny.
I actually do remember you lining up next to me, and I do remember what happened next. But go ahead.
So I'm like, I'm gonna see what this is all about, and I could run. I could run, and we took off, and I stayed with Danny for about a half a step. And I tell you this, there's football speed, there's track speed, and then there's world-class speed. And I saw that first. I could not believe how just boom, it's amazing. And I was so impressed. I knew I was going to get smoked, but I wanted to see what it felt like, man, and just beautiful long strides and fast. Crazy.
And I'll say this, imagine when you don't do anything particularly pointed to you being that fast and being able to have that kind of speed and be able to enjoy the luxury of, hey, I got another gear, and if necessary, I have even another gear after that. It was a wonderful feeling to be able to run fast and to be young again. Don't we all wish we could?
I don't know what running fast means. I did run the 800 meter when I was in high school, and I did run under 2 minutes in the 800 meter, but that's that's
not bad for a high schooler.
Yeah, right. So it is what it is, but I still don't know what speed is. That's pretty.
Danny,
good.
You're in.
Ken, I want to go back a little farther before coming to Iowa State. Part of our show, Danny, is we talk about. I don't know if you got a chance to see Coach Hudson's and how he grew up, and also Ellis Hobbs, and about how he kind of grew up. So we kind of go back, and maybe before that, maybe your formative years as a teenager and whatever. If you could talk a little bit about that. We all run into, have different blessings and different challenges, and I'd like
absolutely
to hear a little bit about that before we get into more of the Iowa State stuff.
Okay, so growing up, my father passed away when I was 3 years old. I don't remember much about him. I remember the smell of his leather jacket. I remember what I got for Christmas when I was 3 years old, which was a push and pull fire truck that you sit in and push pedal. I got a Light Bright game, and I got a Popeye gum machine that was fully stocked with bubble gum. That was when I was 3. So my father passed away when I was 3. I was raised by my mother in the city of Compton, which everyone talks about it in the rap songs, the city of Compton. And when I was 14, going to the ninth grade, my mom passed away from a stroke. And let me back up a little bit more. Growing up, I spent time with my grandmother in the city of Paris. Okay. I have 5 brothers and sisters. My 3 older brothers, my 3 older brothers lived with my grandmother because the weather was better there. They had asthma. So I like to go to my grandmother's house in Paris, which was not the city. It was more of the country. She had, chickens, a cow, a sheep, and a pig or 2, and some rabbits and things like that. So it was a quieter, slower existence. I liked Paris for a couple of reasons. Number one, I could walk around barefooted and not have to be worried about being in the city. Number two, as the baby of the family, my grandmother was always there cooking and doing everything that I love to do, which is eat and to cook. I love those 2 things to this day. And number 3, my older brothers were there, Marvin and LC, my 2 older brothers. They were heavily into sports, and they were really the foundation of who I am as an athlete. I watched my brother Marvin throw a no-hitter when I was in the 3rd grade or 4th grade. He threw a no-hitter in baseball, in Pony League baseball. And just the poise that he had in order to be able to get 28 up, 28 down, and throw a perfect game, that intrigued me because I knew that it was not normal, and I knew that it was special. And I watched him practice at home, striking out my brothers multiple times with all different kinds of pitches. I knew that it was something special, and I recognized it as that even as a 4th grader. As a family, we didn't have much. We used to go and cut onions, which is like an onion field where you have regular onions that we would eat for in tacos or whatever. We would go as a family and we would cut onions from 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. That would give us about $70. My grandmother would go to our local Hy-Vee, or in this case in California, Stater Brothers, and buy the food for that day, and then the next day on whatever we needed to get through that week. And that's how we made our money through the week without having to go on government assistance or the county. So that was work ethic that I got from my grandmother and my brothers and sisters. And I learned during that time working in the fields that, it was different. It was admirable. It gave us all a sense of pride. And when I figured it out about the 7th grade, I figured out that, I don't have to be angry to go out here and cut these onions because I don't get to enjoy my summer like the rest of my peers. It was something that had to be done. And once I start to give myself to the process, I actually enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't enjoy smelling like onions. I did not enjoy being the youngest of 6 kids with a propane tank outside. Every time it got to me, it was straight cold water. I didn't enjoy that. But I did enjoy, at 2:45 when my grandmother would say, hey, go count the sacks so we could see how much money we were going to make. I would run all the way down, an acre or 2 acres, whatever it took to put 100 sacks in a row, 100-pound sacks of onions. I would go and I would count the sacks, and then we'd put the number on those. And that's how they would pay us based on the number of sacks that we actually produced. That work ethic to me stuck with me throughout my athletic career and really, really laid the foundation for being able to fight through whatever it was that I needed to do, whether I was tired or whether I didn't want to go or whether I was tired of doing it from yesterday or whatever. It gave me an opportunity to be able to find out who I was as a person and what it meant to truly try to persevere and to rise above and to do something not because I had to or wanted to, but to do it with joy. And that's what I did athletics with. I did track and field with joy. And I love sports to this day. I love everything it stands for. I love the principles that it gives us. I just love the process. I love the process wholly. By the time I got to high school, by the time I was in the 6th grade, my 2 oldest brothers, Marvin and LC, they won the state basketball championship for 1A small schools. During that summer before, they played basketball every day as a team for Paris High School. They would get together at the gym, and the coach would give them the key, and they'd go in there and practice. I watched that team practice every day during the summer. During that time, I got to see a couple things. I got to see what dedication looked like. I got to see what teamwork and camaraderie and esprit de corps looked like. And I got to see through the process of the season, going to every home game with my grandmother and sitting on the front row. And then as they went through the playoffs, going to every game with my mom to see my brothers play all the way to the Long Beach Sports Arena, which is now the Aquarium of the Pacific in the city of Long Beach. They beat Saugus High School for the Class A CIF basketball championship. And when I got to see that, I knew what a championship team looked like. I not only knew what it looked like, I knew what they practiced like. I knew what they sweated and toiled like. I knew that when I went into the gym with them, it was like a cathedral, that it was a serious place to do serious business, trying to win the championship. And I knew what success looked like from a coaching staff down to the managers that were on that team. I observed all that as a sixth grader, and I never forgot it, which is why by the time I got to Iowa State and was able to experience the culture with Bill Bergen and Steve Lynn as an Iowa State track and field athlete, it was the same culture, right? It was the same cathedral when we were in practice. It was the same business approach to a championship season, that everybody was important, that everybody mattered, every point was calculated, weighed and measured. And to be a part of something like that, I understood immediately, and I didn't need any instruction. I just had to fall in line and do what everyone else did, and I too could be a champion.
That's awesome. So you end up leaving Compton and you moved to Paris then in with your grandmother, correct?
Right.
And then go from there.
And then high school, of course, I was a football player. My senior year, I moved back to running back, 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, something like that. And then in being recruited now, I was going to go to Arizona State to play football, but they only wanted me to run track. So that took Arizona State off the table. I went to Michigan on a recruiting trip. It was too big. I went to Cal State Fullerton, which is here in Los Angeles. Didn't like it. Wasn't big enough. And then to Boise State, where I really liked it. I got a chance to meet Ralph Sampson. They had the NCAA basketball championships in Boise that year. Got a chance to meet Ralph Sampson. Got a chance to go around Boise. Got a chance to meet the guy who made the McDonald's fries, who had the biggest flag in the United States in his front yard. That was all cool. And then to be able to go to Ames and take that 5th trip to Ames as Jim Kreiner accepted the job there. And then to have Shockey and Kurt Thomas as my guys who took me out on my recruiting trip. So it felt like a place for me that I could fit into. It wasn't too fast. It wasn't too big. I thought that I fit there, and I'm glad I made the decision to go to Ames.
I remember sitting in the Gateway lobby, and I'm just sitting there talking to you, going, what do you think? And you're like, kind of feels like home. And I'm like, wow, kid from California thinks Ames feels like home. That it meant a lot to me to know that we were able to, to just kind of bond. It was a great weekend, just along with KT and me and you, a few other guys that joined in with us, and it just was awesome. And then when you showed up in August that next year, I mean, it was kind of rewarding to see you coming in, and we gave each other a high five and a hug, and it was like, man, this feels like home. This is awesome.
And I'll tell you what, they call the great state of Iowa is not called the great state for nothing. I've met some wonderful, wonderful people, and I count you and Kent amongst those individuals. Now, Kent was a senior when I was a freshman. He spent time talking to me, right, asking me about myself, just genuine concern about, me as a freshman, how I was doing and how things were going along. That goes a long way. It's a lot of times when you get into an environment where football is competitive or you play the same position, the guys tend to not bond as much as they probably could or would otherwise. But I felt very comfortable in Ames. I love the guys from Nebraska. I love the guys from Iowa. I love the guys from Chicago. So for me, it was never about, what my position was on the field or how I was playing. It was all about how I felt. And for me, a guy who goes a lot on emotion, that meant a lot to me, because if I'm calm and I'm able to focus on what I need to focus on, I can do a lot of good work. And you guys allowed me to do that and not feel pressured to do anything or be someone that I wasn't. And that was a huge factor in my overall success.
I got to tell the story about the JV game we played.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Nebraska kicked off to us.
Right.
And they'd scored. They went down, they scored. They kicked off to us. And you catch the ball on like the 5-yard line or whatever it was. And there was a seam, and I remember the guy from Nebraska saying, "We got him," and then it was you hit that extra gear, and it was 95 yards for a touchdown.
Absolutely, and that was my only highlight in Iowa State football uniform was that kick return. I think I had one at practice once when Kreiner got mad at me and caught me talking. But that touchdown in that JV game, that was, if nothing else, it should have showed the coaches that I had a little bit more to give than they had actually allowed me to give. For me, that felt good, and for me, that was something I'll never forget. But what happened was I caught the ball and I dropped it. When I picked it up, there was nowhere to go but up the middle. So once I stepped to the middle, there was no one left but the kicker. And of course, you give him the leg, you take it back, you go around, you hit the gas, hit the clutch, hit the gas, and then you go. So that was an easy touchdown. But I love football. I loved everything about it. Didn't like our field that we played on very much back when we were there in 84, 85. But it was what it was, and that was my one collegiate touchdown that I had. There you go.
Yeah, that was a fun day. I remember that. I didn't really like playing the JV side of things, but hey, it was an opportunity to go play football and 11 on 11 and see what happens. That's
right.
I remember, right? You kind of asked to play in the game because basically, if you're on JV, you weren't playing anything on the varsity. And if I remember right, there were a few guys that asked, like, Mark Perry was another one. Can I at least go down and play in the game? And we did, and we had a good game against. We didn't win, but it was a fun game.
Right. And we were freshmen. For me, I never thought twice about playing versus not playing. It was just something that I thought that we had to do as freshmen. I actually got to travel a couple of times with the varsity team, so I consider myself to be a varsity player. So the play in the JV game was just something for me to be able to do defensively. Being my first year at cornerback, I had a lot to learn as a cornerback. Didn't have too much of a problem with the ball in my hands, but on the defensive side, I felt as though I needed to work. So that JV game was good work for me.
Sure. Talk about some of the other teammates that that we had on the football side of things. We're going to get to track and field a lot more here in a few minutes, but talk a little bit about some of the guys, some of the people that were mentors to you and different guys on the team that you remember.
Well, I'd have to start with Alvin Baker, our cornerback, who I played behind him my freshman year, pretty much the whole season. But Alvin Baker took me under his wing like pretty much right away. Alvin and I have a great relationship. I speak to him 2-3 times a year. Now he's in Florida. And Alvin, well, he was just nice, 6'2", 192 pounds, cornerback, sweet back pedal, would come up and make contact with you if he had to, but had enough dexterity to just fall off the ball and be able to play the pass. I loved his game, and I studied him probably about 90% of the time I was at practice. I only had my eye on one person. That was Alvin Baker. Alvin was always that guy for me. He actually cut my Jerry curl off. He was the one who gave he was the one who gave me my haircut and cut my Jerry curl. I trusted him enough to allow him to do that. Alvin was one. Chris Washington, big Chris Washington that played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was our starting linebacker, our middle linebacker, and Chris was a real gentle soul. I'll never forget the first time we were at I think it was where did we stay the night before the game? We had a home game.
Starlight Village.
Starlight.
Yeah.
We were at the Starlight Village and we had prime rib that night. And you guys remember the prime rib they used to give us would actually cover a whole plate, right?
Right. Yeah.
So Chris grabbed me and put me in line in front of him, and he was telling me what to put on my plate, right? So Chris Washington sits next to me and we sat down to eat. And of course I ate less than half of this prime rib, which was about as thick as a phone book. And Chris was happy to eat the rest of it. And in between time, he would ask me questions. And Chris was a great guy. Tommy Davis, Lester Williams was also a character. Billy McHugh. I used to like the way little bow-legged Billy McHugh would play ball. He would come out and just wasn't built for Big 8 football, but he had a Big 8 heart, And that was one thing I always loved about the little guys. You can be a little bit smaller than the rest of us, but you can have a heart that's bigger than all of us. And Billy McHugh really fit that mold. I watched him play hurt. I watched him play doubled over in pain. I watched him fly in there and hit guys that were way bigger than him. There were a lot of influence. David Archer was another one. Watching him and the way he carried himself as our quarterback my freshman year, to see the poise and the planning and the deliberate intent in which he played the game of football and his knowledge of the game. Of course, Tracy Henderson, Itty Bitty, all those guys, caught my eye as a freshman playing football, and I tried to emulate in some way each one of them to take what they had and try to add it to my own repertoire so I could be a little bit better player myself. But there are a lot of examples of great players that were there at Iowa State when I was there, and it was hard. It was hard not to be in awe as a freshman, but also have the deep desire to want to be better and to be able to someday be able to run out on the field at Jack Trice Stadium and show our fans, our Cyclone fans, what I had to offer as a football player.
So what was that like, first time going into the stadium?
Bro, let me tell you. When I got dressed the first time for the game against Iowa my freshman year, it was at home. And standing in the tunnel with 90 guys, whatever it was, 80, 90 guys standing in the tunnel. I'm dressed. I got my Iowa State gear on. I'm like everybody else. I'm a football player in Division I football playing for the Iowa State Cyclones in Ames, Iowa, getting ready to come out on the field for the Iowa Hawkeyes. My feet never touched the ground from the tunnel over to the sideline. I just remember like, wow, this is really it. And it was the first time I felt that really, really, really serious rush of adrenaline as a football player. Was like, we can do anything together as a team. And I love that, being a part of that, being part of Cyclone football and Cyclone athletics, and being a part of the football team and being able to go out with the other 90 guys and go to war against Iowa or whoever. It was about time for business. And I love that. And I just remember it was surreal, 56,000 people running out on the field, and they were there for us and we were there for them. And it was all about Cyclone Nation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hold on one second here. We got a little interruption in our show here for a second. We got a little guy coming in and wants to say hi.
Hello, guys. my
Hey, B! What's up,
What's up, Danny?
What's up?
What's up, bro?
What's happening, man?
What's up, little bro? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed, AB, to be in the body and the spirit, man. We were just talking about you and talking about, what you meant to me when I got to Iowa State, and that still holds true today. It's like, I had big brothers, but when I got to Ames, I had a new big brother, and that was you, man. And I appreciate everything you did for me as a student athlete. And the last thing you told me before you left to go off and play at in the USFL, you told me, make sure you get your degree. And that was one thing I remember that you said to me. One of the last things you said to me before you left, and last time I saw you in Ames, that was what you said to me. And I never forgot that. And when I got my degree in 2010, that prophecy was fulfilled. I was able to close that circle. And I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. Always. And I really meant that. I want you to have your degree. Sports, if you were successful in any type of sports, track, football, and you always need to have something to fall back on just in case other things don't work out. And I have my degree. I got my degree from the University of Florida. Mm-hmm. After I left Iowa State, I was 17 credits short of getting my degree. And I went back and got my degree at night school at Florida State, at University of Florida campus.
And I tell you what, so you guys hear what he just said to me. I'm 60 years old, right? He had that wisdom about himself as a 22-year-old before he left school to impart that wisdom on me when I was an 18-year-old. So that right there is what every college athlete should have. At least one person that's going to tell them the truth, point them in the right direction. The only difference is I did go back to Iowa State in 2008 and finish my degree, and I had 16 hours left. And Jamie Pollard called me and asked me, told me that I only did 3 years of my 4-year scholarship. If I wanted to come back and finish my degree, he would allow me to do that. I went back in 2008 and took my degree from Iowa State in 2010. So once a Cyclone, always a Cyclone.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when we knew
Well,
when I knew that when Kent said that you had contacted each other and were looking to come on, I remember there was a pretty good bond between you and Bake. So I got on the horn and called Bake up and said, "Hey man, I want you to come on and be on the show for a minute with me and talk to Danny." And he couldn't stop the trip and made sure he could be on the phone or be on the call with us today. So
and I appreciate it, man. I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I cut my wife and I went down to Miami for a weekend and just a day trip. Went down to Miami and was planning on spending the weekend. We weren't scheduled to come back until tomorrow morning. But this meant so much to me that I told my wife, I said, I need to be there just to be in support of my brother, my baby brother, and my teammates. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you guys.
That's
and
right.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys I was a young, arrogant football player with a lot of talent that was undisciplined, didn't care about anything but myself. And I learned from you guys that teamwork, team players, and relying on somebody else and having confidence in someone else instead of just yourself. You know,
that's right.
I came from the inner city where you either made it or you didn't.
That's right.
You either ran away or you stood and fought.
That's right.
That's where I got that attitude from, and my parents. That's where I got my attitude from, and that's part of the reason that I'm the person I am today.
That's right.
And we appreciate you, AB.
I just want to say this. I want to steal the show from Danny, but all of my high school friends, 99% of them, probably 2 or 3, had live with their mom and dad. The rest of them live with their single mom or their single dad. So they didn't have that bond, that family circle. But my mom and dad been married all my life.
That's awesome.
All my life. I'm 64 years old. My mom passed away just recently, but my mom and dad was married all my life, and I appreciate that. And they taught me family and responsibility.
And they taught you well. Absolutely.
That is fantastic.
Yes. What an opportunity, Danny. You had that as a mentor. Bake.
Yep.
I
absolutely.
know that, I mean, you're modest now, but I'm telling you what, you had like the smoothest back pedal, and they don't back pedal anymore. Everything's a shuffle now, but man, you had the smoothest back pedal, and those hips you could turn. And I don't, did you ever get Danny to pedal like that, or was that just a lost cause?
Let me say, at 60 years old, I still got that back pedal. I still got his back pedal. If I got mad and wanted to do it right now, it'd be just like Bane, right? Trust that.
And that's funny, Kent, that you brought that up. But every time I talk, I contacted Danny. We've been in contact with each other for about, I guess, 4 years now. But we had lost contact with each other, and we just recently, about 4 years ago, got back connected. And the first thing he said to me was, "I love that back pedal. I love the way you back pedal." You know,
it was nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
My big thing about Bake was Bake could go out. We could have got 6 inches of rain playing mud this deep, and he could run through it, and he wouldn't get a speck of dirt on him. He was always.
I was always clean. I was always clean.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Always looking good.
Is fantastic. That is.
Awesome. I was taught that if you look good, you play good.
If you play good, you pay good. Right there, you go.
Right.
Hey,
but Danny,
so
it's nice seeing you, bro. I love you to death, man.
Hey, AB, I appreciate you. Tell your lovely wife I said hello, and back to you, brother. Love you more.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. I will. And I'm just here as a spectator. I want to hear your story also, Danny.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, we got to go pay some bills here for a minute, Kent and Danny. We're going to pay a little bit, take a couple-minute break. You remember Ken Christman?
How many minutes? 2, 3, 4, what?
I think it's like 2.5 minutes.
Copy that.
So,
there you go.
2 minutes. It'll be about 2 minutes.
Down to 2.
Okay. There you go.
All right, let's take a break.
Let's be honest. Pizza is something almost every family enjoys. You're already grabbing one at the store. So why not choose the best tasting pizza that also supports a cause we all care about? That was the challenge behind We Will Pizza. Create the ultimate frozen pizza for Cyclone fans. Big flavor, bold toppings, and options for everyone, including gluten-free choices that don't sacrifice taste. And if you haven't tried it yet, the real MVP? The breakfast pizza. Perfect for early kickoffs, tailgates, or watch parties when Hilton Magic or Jack Trice Energy is calling. Every bite helps benefit Iowa State student athletes, so your game day spread does more than just taste amazing. It gives back. We Will Pizza. Made for Cyclone fans, built for tailgates, and ready whenever you are. We will, you will, Cyclones will. In the heart of Des Moines, one name has stood above the rest. Iowa Beef Steakhouse. Step inside, and you enter a place where tradition still matters, where the atmosphere feels familiar, warm, and unmistakably Iowa. Service isn't rushed. It's personal, attentive, and rooted in genuine care. And before the main event, the freshest start in the city, our signature salad bar, crafted every single day. Then comes the reason people have returned for generations. Iowa beef, hand-seasoned with pride. Guided by flame, forged by heat. This is where flavor becomes legend. Served with the same care it was crafted with. A meal meant to be remembered. And whether the night calls for bold, smooth, or something in between, our bar offers a selection as rich as our history, including the old-fashioned we've become known for. Balanced, timeless, unforgettable. And long after the fire cools, the glow of this place stays with you. Iowa Beef Steakhouse, 1201 East Euclid Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, where Iowa comes for steak, done right.
Fantastic. Next time in Des Moines, I got to try that Iowa beef. I've not been there yet.
We'll take you. We'll take you.
That looks pretty
Yeah.
Hey, before you guys get started, I got to ask Danny a question. I'm doing some research in the background here and looking some stuff up. And Danny says you were born in Torrance, California. Is that right?
Yes.
So there's another famous Olympian runner from that grew up in Torrance, California. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
I do.
Louis Zamperini, who has a very unique story as well.
Oh yeah, you know what? That this is true. Louis Zamperini, who was a POW for a long time.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I read his book, and I knew that town. So Torrance, California, must be pumping out some great athletes, I think. So
Yeah, and Louis Zamperini has a great story. I remember reading his book before he passed away here. I had just moved here to Pasadena, and was really trying to have a chance to meet him before he passed away, but unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. But an outstanding American, served his country well, also represented the United States in the Olympic Games, and just a good all-around person. He will be missed.
there you go. All right, guys, it's your show.
That's
Yep.
awesome. Oh, great stuff there, Chris.
Hey,
Appreciate that.
Keith, can we pivot to track here a little bit, you think?
Oh, man, you go.
Well, no, we'll just Danny, we kind of touched on your freshman year there, your first meet.
Mm-hmm.
So just for reference here, you were a 9-time Drake Relays champion, correct?
Yeah, I won the Drake Relays 9 times. So how they didn't put me in the top 100 all time of Drake Relays, I didn't understand that. But I do have 9 Drake Relay championships. I absolutely do.
So you're in your freshman year. Yeah, I don't know how that wouldn't happen either, by the way. You're in your freshman year. You have that first meet. So now you're getting into the outdoor season probably, pretty soon. And now you start. You please take it.
Yeah, let me go back to the Drake Relay story. So
yeah.
Like I said, when I was a senior in high school, I set the national high school record for 300 low hurdles at 35.52 seconds. At the state meet in California, there were at least 10,000 people there for a high school track meet. So it was a very charged environment, very competitive environment, very serious environment. Coach Steve Lynn, my beloved Coach Steve Lynn, may he rest in peace, always talked about the Drake Relays this and the Drake Relays that, and how wonderful it is, and how wonderful the announcer was, and he had a photographic memory, and it's like, hello East Side, hello West Side, and I thought, how great can it be? So finally, I go through the indoor season, get to the outdoor season. I break the world junior record. I think one time or maybe two times before the Drake relays actually happened. And finally, the day comes around when we've got the Drake relays. And I get there. There's a lot of activities, a lot of great food I can smell. The crowd's going crazy, 15,000 people in the stadium, and I'm warming up in the field house. And I'm getting ready for what would be my first real challenge for the 400 hurdles as a freshman, in as much as they had John Thomas, who was the previous national champion from Indiana. And then they had Sven Nylander, who was from Sweden, who went to SMU, who was also 2 years removed from being the NCAA Division I champion for 400 hurdles. So I had a stacked race in front of me, and I knew I was going to have to run fast. So I warm up in the field house, and of course, being from Iowa State, I'm feeling the vibe that this is my home track, and this is my turf, my territory. So I'm going to defend my territory. So as I'm getting ready to do this, one of the little assistants, I guess someone was charged with staying with me and bringing me out to the track or whatever. So they don't take me up the stairs once they call the 400 hurdles. They take me, and young lady takes me a different way, and there's a small exit ramp which goes down at about a 30-degree angle, and it goes down to a very small door right off the first curve at the Drake relays. And I remember her sending me down that way and through that door. And when I got to the end of that door, there was a placard at the top of that door, and it says simply that through these doors walk or pass the world's greatest athletes. And I got a lump in my throat then, because then I knew that, number one, I went down that ramp for a reason. And number two, when I stepped out of that door and stepped onto the track, there are 15,000 people that went crazy, right? And I thought, oh boy, here we go. I looked over to the immediate infield across the track, and Coach Lynn was standing there waiting for me. And when I got across the field, the first thing he said is, "I told you." The second thing he said, "Now let's go run fast." And that was my first experience at the Drake relays. And of course, I won the Drake relays. I won the T-shirt. I gave away the watch to one of the high school kids, kept the T-shirt. But that was my first of 9 Drake relay championships. And I love the Drake relays to this day. It stands for something that is uniquely Iowa, uniquely Des Moines, and I love it. I love it to death.
Yeah. Yep.
I was there. I was in the stands.
I watched you run a couple times as well at Drake, and yeah, absolutely. So
I don't know if it was your first year. I know I was there for at least 2 of them. I was down there for. It was
Well, as you can see in that picture you guys put up, I was just a freshman. My form was not yet perfected with the bent lead leg, but I was figuring it out. Every week that I ran a little bit faster and got a little bit more threatening to my opponents, I tried to grow every week. And thanks to Coach Lynn, who was a wonderful coach and a wonderful person, had it not been for me being under his tutelage, who knows what would have happened. But it takes the right athlete, the right coach, and the right time, and the right mix of personality, direction, and correction to be a champion. And Coach Lynn was my champion. He helped me get to every meaningful thing I ever did in athletics. He was a part of it.
He was a great man. He was great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he was.
Yes,
sorely
sir.
Missed. Sorely missed.
So, Danny, that's the spring of '84, and it's an Olympic year,
right?
So, how does that year take off for you? You'll learn in every meet. The Olympics, in theory, right now are about 7 or 8 months away. And there's a lot that happened in between.
Well, let me
first year.
Yeah, let me explain to you. When I got out of high school, when I came to Ames on July the 10th, 1983, I was 172 pounds. By December of 83, when I went home for Christmas on December 17th, I was 214 pounds. So when I ran in the Olympic final, which I think was in August of 84, I was 163 pounds. So besides doing the weight yo-yo, where I'm in the weight room, I'm lifting for football, and end up running track, and I come all the way down to a $163. I was as strong as I'd ever been. I felt as good as I'd ever been, but it was a whirlwind. Being a football player requires a certain amount of time, attention, and effort. Being a track person is an individual sport, so I'm not necessarily depending on anyone else, but there are no shortcuts in track, which simply means that every practice that Coach Lynn designed for me was one step closer to me trying to be the eventual Olympic silver medalist. But after I went undefeated collegiately and I won my first national championship, coming back to the Olympic trials, I hadn't known defeat in 2 years. Arriving at the Olympic trials, seeing all these guys with mustaches and chest hair and all this stuff that I'd never seen before, these are professional runners that I'm dealing with now. And I'm 18 years old coming off of a 11-month odyssey where I'm a football player, I'm a track guy, and I'm yo-yoing up and down with my weight. And now I've got a whole another cast of characters to deal with. So all I could do was just do what I always did. I don't listen to what people say. I just try to go to what's on paper. So I'd run 48.81 seconds to win my first NCAA Division I track and field championship. So I started looking at these guys whose name I would learn, Tony Rambo and David Patrick and Andre Phillips and all these guys who ran 400 hurdles for a living. I'm looking at their time on paper, and I'm eliminating them one by one as they did not have a faster time than I had. So by the time I got to Mr. Moses, that 47:02 was looking at me like a spotlight at a lighthouse. It was bright and it was loud. So I'm thinking, maybe I have a remedy for this guy, but in actuality, my PR is 48:81 and his PR is 47:02, which is almost a second. In athletics, that's a lifetime, an absolute lifetime. And then to come out to the track for my first round in the Olympic trials and have Edwin be in the second heat and have Edwin in the first heat. So I'm standing pretty close to him when he goes on for the first heat of the 400 hurdles in order to make the team. And to watch him get out of the blocks and to listen to the sound that the blocks made, how they rattled when he left, and the unabashed not caring about the first hurdle. He took off like he was running 100 meters. And I thought to myself in the quietness and recess of my own mind, I thought, I can't do that, right? I didn't possess that. I couldn't do that. But then I snapped back real quick and said, well, none of the other guys can beat me either. So I guess if I have to settle for something today, it'll be second at the Olympic trials. I'll make the team. And I went ahead and did that. But that was an eye-opening experience to see Edwin Moses for the first time in person and to be able to see with my own eyes what greatness really looked like up close. And it changed me as an athlete. It changed my perspective as a competitor, and definitely had to throw another piece of wood on the fire and make it hotter because I wasn't hot enough to deal with that at that time.
The Olympic trials was in July.
I think it was in June, late June or early July. it was in July. Yeah.
So you're on the team. You got a month and a half to get ready to roll.
Yep.
And I remember football season was coming up, and we're like, we were more concerned with you in the Olympics. But go ahead.
Yeah. So how'd you go about that, Danny? That you said you had to. It changed you watching Edwin come out of the blocks. It changed you. Did it change you that fast?
Yeah, it changed me instantaneously. And what happened was, real quick here, this is a picture of Steve Lynn and I.
Yeah.
In between the Olympic trials and the Olympic Games, and you can see right here that Coach Lynn is coming up with some dastardly plan, and I'm listening to everything he's saying. I'm trying to absorb it all and make sure that I can be. That I can mirror his vision on the track. And I think on this day right here, he set up the hurdles in lane 1. And I asked him, I said, Coach, there's no one out here but yourself, myself, and the corn that's growing around the athletic complex in Ames. Why am the hurdles in lane 1? And he says simply, you might get lane 1 in the Olympic Games. And sure enough, I drew lane 1 in the semifinals of the Olympic Games, 23rd Olympiad in Los Angeles. And I thought to myself, thank God for Coach Lynn, because what I'd done is I'd practiced for that eventuality, which came to fruition. And rather than getting psyched out about it, I was able to embrace it, understand it. I'd already rehearsed it. It was just a question of going out there and doing it. And that would be to go ahead and run my race. I did that and made the Olympic team.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Now I was going to say, so we're at the Olympics. Can you take us through that? I know you had some, I know you have an interesting story about the semifinal run.
Right.
I want to get to that, but I don't want to jump to that if you have some other things you want to share in there.
Yeah, I'll share a couple of things about the Olympic Games. The Olympics are every 4 years. Athletes get to measure themselves against their peers around the world. But the Olympic Games for me it was a mixed bag, because I had been through so much, and I'd been on the grind, if I can use that word, for so long, from football, the indoor track, the outdoor track, the NCAA champion, the Olympic trials, now the Olympic Games. I had gone 11 months without a break, basically, without any time for myself or any time to recover mentally, physically, spiritually. It was just a blur. And I remember sitting in the LA Sports Arena, which was right next to the Coliseum. As the host nation, we came out last as the host nation. So we got up that morning and we took team pictures. We went into the sports arena and we sat there from 11 p.m. until 6 p.m. until we came out with our flags and with our entrance into the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum as the host nation of the 32nd Olympiad in Los Angeles. And the spectacle was wonderful. 100,000 people in the stands, the guy coming in the jetpack, Rayford Johnson running in and lighting the torch, and all this stuff is going along around. And then Edwin Moses reads the Olympic oath, the athlete's oath. And he came to the line in the oath where it talked about, we run for the honor of our country and the glory of our teams and our sport. And then I got the idea in my head that this is really what it's about, right? It's not just about a track meet. It's about representing your country for the honor of your country, because it truly is an honor to represent the United States in the Olympic Games or in any venue. If you have USA across your chest, it should mean something to you as an athlete, as a person, as an athlete. Much more than winning or losing, it's about how you compete and what you're willing to give in order to secure that for your country, for yourself, for your team, and for the honor of your country and the glory of your sport, right? I heard that, as an 18-year-old. And what I took away from that was, this is not a normal track meet. This is for everything, right? For everything. That had a lot of depth and weight for me as an athlete. I understood it. And it was from that point forward, I understood what I was competing for. And it wasn't for myself. It was for a whole bunch of things before I even got to myself. So that's where the kind of change came also when I talked about having seen Edwin and how I changed immediately after that experience. When I got back to Ames, there was no more, we got 6 times 200. I'm gonna let somebody else lead the first one and you lead the second one, I'll lead the third one, and then someone else leads the fourth one. I was like, no, I'll lead them all, right? And I'll take you guys through the 150 at the time that I'm capable of. And what that did was it made everybody on the team better, because it raised the consciousness of the entire team, because my eyes had been open as to what's needed to be the very best in the world. And I was fortunate enough to be able to take that back to Ames. And in doing so, I was a part of 4 Big 8 championship teams in 3 years. And that's unheard of. And that's what that experience in July of '84 did for me. It raised my consciousness and made me a better athlete, made me more aware, made me more focused, and made me a lot more dangerous to Big 8 opponents.
No doubt, right? Holy, that's a whole different level of competing. That was awesome. Talk about your semifinal race in the Olympics.
Oh, the semifinals was one of those humdingers where, you know, if you didn't experience it, you wouldn't believe it. So what happened was I had been
That's just me. I'm good.
okay. I had been receiving shoes and clothing from Nike my entire freshman year. Ever since I broke the world junior record at the Paper Tiger Invitational in Louisiana at LSU was the first time I broke the world junior record. There was a Nike rep there. Our track team at the time wore Converse. I didn't like Converse, didn't like the way they felt, didn't like the way they performed with the shoes that they had given our team. Nike started sending me shoes to wear, flats and spikes. And as the year progressed, you know, I ended up accumulating quite a few pairs of shoes, which weren't sent to me. They were sent to Iowa State University. So Bear had them in the equipment room. And when I needed some, he would determine when the other ones were worn out enough for me to get another pair of shoes to wear, even though, you know, all 20 boxes of shoes were size 10 and a half, and they were all for me. And they all had my name on the box. They weren't even full size boxes of shoes. Nike would have these small boxes of shoes that were about that thin. They only had enough room for 2 shoes, one on the bottom and then one turned upside down on the top. So those were all my shoes. Long story short, I get to the Olympic Games, and where I'm coming from, you know, I'm poor. You know, I'm on scholarship still. I still haven't realized anything with regard to monetary relief from my exploits on the track. So I asked Nike, if I won the silver medal, would I get what was offered, which was $30,000 for a silver medal? Nike told me, no, you're not going to get that because you're in college and we can't give you that. We can't even give you more than $2,000 worth of equipment. And I thought for a second, I told the guy, Mr. Coleman, I said, hey, there's $2,000 worth of equipment in the training room, in the equipment room with my name on it. He said, well, we didn't send that to you. We sent that to Iowa State University in care of you, which made it legal. And I thought, okay, whatever. So I get mad just with the thought of not being able to claim the money, even though I knew I couldn't take it because I was a collegiate. So what I did was, if Nike wasn't going to claim me or wasn't going to, you know, embrace me with that, with a story better than that, we can't give you that because, you know, we can't give you this or that, whatever. I thought, well, I can wear whatever I want. So what I did was I found me a nice pair of Adidas, or as they say in Germany, Adidas, right? I found me a nice pair of Adidas, and they were powder blue on the bottom. They were white on the top, had the 3 stripes on them, and they were called Titans. And they felt really good. So in the semifinal, I ran in those Adidas, and my Olympic poster I have on Adidas, right? You can barely see them, but they're Adidas. So I run that race. I make it to the final, and I come back out for the final the next day, and the Olympic officials come right over to me. They ask me to see my spikes. I show them my spikes. They take my spikes, physically take my spikes from me and tell me that Nike had declared me as their athlete, and it was forbidden for me to change shoes mid-games. And that was a rule that they had, so I couldn't run in Puma the first round, Adidas the second round, then Nike the third round. And do that whole game. So unbeknownst to me, now I have any spikes to run in. I asked them what I'm going to do. They said, we don't know. There's a race going on the track, and they're going to call us out for the final of the 400 meter hurdles, the semifinal of the 400 meter hurdles coming up next. I'm barefooted. So I figure, push come to shove, I will go out there and run barefooted if you don't leave me any choice. But then I turn around and look, and here comes King Carl Lewis, having just run one of his heats for the 100 meters. Carl comes in, and me being the youngest person on the team, all the older guys, Greg Foster, Carl Lewis, Harvey Glantz, Ron Brown, all these guys were concerned about me as being the youngest guy on the team, youngest person on the U.S. team. And Carl came over to me and asked me what was going on. One of the officials explained it to him. Carl asked me what size shoe I wore. I told him a 10.5, and Carl said, well, I wear a size 12. Take these. So Carl gave me his sprint spikes, and I ran in middle distance spikes. So I had a spike with no heel on it. It was 2 sizes too big, or a size and a half too big. And here I am in Carl Lewis's shoes going out for the semifinals, the Olympic Games. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know whether they're going to stay on my feet, but I know I got them tied around the shoe, over the top, and double knot. But I still got about an inch in the back of my heel that got some play in there. But I put them on. I get out of the blocks. I run the race. I win my heat. And now I'm fixed for the final of the Olympic Games, 400-meter intermediate hurdles the next day. I give Carl his shoes back, which I really wish I would have kept those shoes and not given them back to him. That's one of my greatest regrets, that I gave those shoes back to him. But I gave them back to him. And then Coach Lynn and I went over to the Nike house, which was a frat house that was being rented by Nike on Sorority Row over at USC. And I go in the house with Coach Lynn, and, people are playing foosball, and people are like, doing karaoke and doing all this stuff in there. And I come in and somebody says, "Oh, it's Danny Harris," and everything goes quiet, right? So Don Coleman, who was my liaison with Nike, I call him the brother man, because he was the only brother that worked for Nike. And every time there was a problem with one of the African-American athletes, they would put Don on him and would call him the brother man. So he came over, Don came over, and he tossed a box of shoes from the balcony and tossed them down to me. And he said that, "See what we did for you." So I opened up the box, and it's a custom made pair of spikes with my name on the side, red, white, and blue, a different layout than the regular shoe that you would see in the store. And it's got my name on the side. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so, what I really thought was, this is not a $30,000 pair of shoes, what I really thought. Long story short, Coach Lynn and I go in. Coach Lynn has a beer. And then we sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes. And Coach Lynn says, "You know what, let's get the hell out of here." And I said, "I agree." And we left the Nike house. And that was the end of that situation, but it was the beginning of my real relationship with Nike after that. So ended up taking the new spikes, putting some spikes in them, lacing them up, going out to the final of the 400-meter intermediate hurdles, and being able to secure a silver medal for our country and for myself and for my university and all those involved who had helped me get to that point in my life. And that was a huge relief. After I crossed the finish line, it was like a huge weight had been let off my shoulders. I didn't have a personal best. I ran 48.18. My personal best was before that. I ran 48.02, and I didn't improve on my personal best time. But that was a wonderful feeling, to be able to run in front of 100,000 people or 90,000 people and to have the whole world watching and be able to do what I loved for 48.18 seconds. Was an absolute dream come true.
Well, here it is.
So when this race started here, I'm not hearing anything at this point right here. Still no sound in my head. At this point, I look up, and Edwin Moses is gone. I mean, gone out of my zip code. So I know I'm not going to catch him because he's just too far out there. So I'm not focused on him anymore. But now I look to my outside, and here's the German, Harold Schmidt, who was the last person to beat Edwin Moses before I did. Now, Harold Schmidt and I are getting into a locked pitch battle as we go hurdle for hurdle here. We go over the 8th hurdle, and we lock arms, and he didn't knock me off balance, and I didn't knock him off balance, but I came through with my trail leg and was able to keep my forward momentum and end up winning the silver medal right there, as you can see.
That is so freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being in our living room.
Went crazy.
Going crazy. Went crazy. Yep.
That was fantastic.
We all felt
so the rest of that story is I was so worn out that after I received my silver medal, I didn't go back to the Olympic Village. I went and had my best friend from high school and my high school girlfriend. They met me on Figueroa Avenue, which is right outside the Coliseum by USC. And I got in the back of his mom's Celica, and I rode back to Paris with my best friend and my girlfriend. and I went to my brother's house, went to sleep, and slept for 17 hours straight. I woke up, it was a day after. It was 17 hours that I slept. I slept a day and a half or whatever, and woke up, and then I started thinking about football. And as I came back to Ames, the picture you see there was the morning I got back, the next morning after I returned from the Olympic Games, and Steve Lynn took that picture of me outside of Bayer Hall with my medal on.
Awesome.
Okay, as I was looking at this, I was like, I feel like I've seen this background before, and I'm pretty sure I have a picture of Blaze Bryant in the same area.
Right,
we had Blaze
right.
on several years ago. That must have been the spot where you guys just took photos as athletes.
Well, like, as you can see, it's great sun. That red USA was popping. That silver medal looked good.
That did. Yeah, that was awesome. I remember going we went absolutely berserk. Yeah. There was, I bet we had 40 people watching it in the room we were at. It was awesome.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I never knew that. If I'd have known that, I probably would have tried to run a little bit faster. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had 40 of my football brothers. I didn't know I had 40 of my football brothers watching. I thought that half the team, didn't understand. The other half didn't care. And then, of course, the guys who were my friends were always my friends and understood what was going on. But, I felt kind of funny. It felt like in some ways I had betrayed the football team. In other ways, I felt like I was disconnected from the team because, I had spent so much time away from the team. I don't think that most of the guys thought where my heart was. They didn't know where my heart was. My heart was always with a pigskin. It was just that I had a little bit of a detour that took me through Los Angeles.
Not one little bit, Danny. Not one. We were all so damn proud. It was amazing. We knew you. I mean, we were hanging on your coat, man. So
that's right.
It was. We were just so proud, and I'll never forget it as well. It's just it was such an amazing time, and so then it just I know you came back that fall,
right?
And got back into football, and then I think would that have been your last fall of football, Danny?
Well, what happened was when I got back, when I came from the Olympic Games, when I woke up after my 17-hour nap, I had my sister-in-law had fielded 15, 20 calls from Coach Fox, right? Inquiring as to when I was going to be back and be ready to go for football. So this is less than 48 hours after I received my medal. Now I'm laying on the floor asleep. Remember, I'm 163 is what I weighed. Okay. So they're bugging me to come back to Ames because I'm supposed to be the starting left cornerback, and we got Iowa, in 3 weeks or whatever it was. So I get on a plane. I fly back to Ames. I get there like at midnight. I go over to the dorms where everyone's staying. And the next morning at 9 a.m., I find myself in full gear over in the soccer fields where we used to practice. You guys remember we used to practice outdoors. And I'm stretching and I'm smelling grass. I'm smelling football pads, and I'm smelling like football players smell. I'm smelling all those football smells. I'm smelling cut grass, and I know it's August, right? It's time to go play some football, right? So what ended up happening is Kreiner runs a sweep to my side. I tackle it for no gain. He runs another sweep to my side. I get run over by the fullback, but I hang on and we rally and we make the tackle. The third play he runs is another sweep to the short side. I think his name was Tim Watka, was our tight end.
Jeff Watka.
Jeff
Watka. Watka comes out, and rather than block me, he goes low. I try to push him down and push off of him. And we had on those Adidas that we wore over there on the grass that had the screw-in spikes. And one of my cleats got caught in the grass, and he hyperextends my right knee back about 4 inches. So I'm pissed off now because now I'm hurt. Not only am I hurt, but as far back as my knee went the wrong way, I knew that it wasn't right? My knee wasn't right. And, of course, I went to go stand on it, and it was like a tire with no air in it. It was just all over the place. So now I'm really pissed off. So they take me to the training room. Frank Randall and our athletic staff and his crew, they put me in like a water cast, like a ski boot that went all the way up to my hip, and they shot this ice cold water through it to keep the swelling down. And I actually slept in the training room that night to keep the swelling down. So a day or two later, I go and I get it wasn't an MRI. It was, they used to shoot the dye in there and to take the X-rays. They did that, and nothing was torn, but my ligament was stretched. So they were pressuring me to come back, and I just come off of a year of serious activity, and now I'm hurt through no fault of my own. And now I'm wondering if this isn't the right thing for me to be doing. And Nike told me in no uncertain terms that whenever I got ready to exit the university, that they had a contract for me there with Athletics West, which was a new group that they just put together, who Mary Decker Slaney was the first athlete that they had, and Alberto Salazar, who was a marathon champion. They wanted me to join that group. I wasn't done at Iowa State. I wasn't done playing football. I wasn't done growing up or maturing. I wasn't done with school. I wasn't done with too many things. So that was never a thought of mine to quit the football team and just go and run track because I could do it. I had something to prove on the gridiron as well. Long story short, now I'm going back and forth to the doctor. Nike actually sends me to Des Moines to get an MRI, which I think was one of the first ones that was given in Des Moines. So I got the image. The doctor explained it to me. I give it to Frank Randall, and Frank Randall's like, what the hell is this? So he's not happy, but I'm happy because they tell me all I need is about, 6 to 12 weeks, and I should be okay without having to get surgery. Coach Kreiner and the football team were pressuring me to get surgery, and I wasn't with that. I wasn't with the conflicting information. One, that if I rested for 4 to 6 months, I'd be fully healed, versus if we go in there and do a couple little cuts, a couple little snips, then it'll be okay. You'll be ready to come back in 4 to 6 weeks. I didn't see that. So I had a problem with that. And because I had a problem with that, I wasn't quick to make any decision with regard to allowing someone to cut my knee open in order to fix it and facilitate a faster return. So I didn't do it. And I came to practice one day, and it was snowing, and we're halfway through the season now. And Coach Kreiner gives me an ultimatum, basically, either you do this or we're not going to be, together anymore. And I told him I have to take it under advisement. And an advisement meant that I had made up my mind at that point that I was going to leave the football team. And I did that. The only caveat to that was I wasn't going to leave school. So what I did was I asked Bill Bergen, the head coach of the Cyclone track team at the time, if I quit football, would I be able to get a track scholarship? And Coach Bergen, in his infinite wisdom, and I'll do his voice here, he said, say that again, Dan. And I said, if I quit the football team, can I have a track scholarship? He said, are you serious? I said, I'm serious. So we got in his car. We drove over to the athletic department, and who was our athletic director at that time?
Max Urick.
Went over to Mr. Urick's office. He asked his secretary to bring my file, and she brought the file into his office. And Coach Bergen asked me to tell Mr. Urick what I told him. I told him that, and he said, didn't you just win Olympic silver medal for Iowa State? I said, yes, sir. So he opened up my file. It had 2 pieces of paper in there. It had my letter of intent, and it had my scholarship in there. So he went to mark off football, and he wrote in track and field everywhere there was football, and he asked me to initial it. He did that. He closed it and said it's done. And that's how I switched from football to track. And then I had a question about training table, and he said, just be out of there before a football team comes, so I didn't have a conflict with Kreiner or the football staff. And that was it. I had to quit the football team unbeknownst to the football coaches. And then when they finally figured it out, I had one last meeting with Coach Kreiner, and it was after the Oklahoma game, which they had lost on the road. And I went to training table to eat that morning, I think it was Sunday morning that I went. It was Sunday morning. I went to training table to eat, and Kreiner pulled me to the side. And he let me know that he was getting a lot of flack because people weren't seeing me on the sideline, and he wanted me to come back. And if I come back and just, that I could quit in a week, but I couldn't quit the way I quit. I had to come back and at least, do it the right way. And I think I said something to the effect of, I love football, but you made me not love football anymore, coach. And that my mind was made up. And at that point, he had a couple things to say, and we parted ways. And that was the last day that I played football for Iowa State. The rest of it was all track for the next 2 years. And thank God for Max Jurek and his ability to change and allow me to switch scholarships, because I was going to transfer to UCLA, who had a great dynamite track team at the time. And that didn't have to happen. I was able to stay there and to win 3 more Big 8 championships in track and field and 4 team championships in 3 years, and be a part of something that was truly great that will never probably be done again for Iowa State and Cyclone athletics.
I remember walking off of Jack Trice Field, walking up the ramp. It was a scrimmage. You were injured. You had not played because we were out of the – I think we were out of the 2-a-days at that time.
Right.
And there was me and KT and there was like 4 or 5 of us. We're like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Your bread is buttered at track and field. What are you doing?
Right.
And you're like – kind of hemming and hawing, like, dude, you got to go do what's right for you. We believe in you. We whatever.
Right.
I remember walking up the ramp, going right past the big statue of Cy. I'll never forget that. And you thanked us for giving you the support. We're like, dude.
Right. And I was very conflicted because I'm a very loyal person now. In my mind, Kreiner took me from Paris, California, right? He took me from nothing, and he gave me a shot, right? Yep. He's one of the few coaches that actually came to my house, right? And I didn't want to disappoint him. I didn't want to disappoint Coach Fox. I didn't want to disappoint Paris High School. I didn't want to let anybody down. I wanted to do it all, but I wanted to do it in a way that was respectful. I did not want to quit because I'd never quit anything in my life. And I had played football every year from the time I was 11 years old up until that point. So to have a season go by and have an August come and go without me smelling that grass and without me being a part of something that's greater than myself, that being a football team, that was not normal for me. And it left a huge void, in my spirit. Not just my life, but in my spirit, not being a part of a football team, because that's who I was as a person. Now, it didn't take that long to get over that, but it still gnawed at me. And I have to say that every year preceding that, until I left Iowa State as a junior, I thought about playing football every year. I really did seriously think about coming back and trying to play every year.
I'm pretty sure we would have kicked your ass if you'd have come back out, though.
You'd have had to catch me first, bro.
I can't run.
That would have been the problem. So, Danny, I think it was a blessing for sure. A blessing in disguise. You're so competitive, so loyal. Obviously, I mean that's what makes you great. So, I agree with Keith. We were all the same. Really, yeah. He's got to do this. We do the same thing, but I want to keep going with track. I want to move on. So you had your next spring. You won your NCAAs. You had a great indoor-outdoor season. And how did you get into, you go from track, you're in track, and how did you get to, you've started running, is it professionally? Am I saying that correctly? Or how many years did you run for Iowa State before you turned professional? Is it
3 years? So I left after my junior year. So I was 36-0, and I go into my last NCAA Division I championship that was in Indiana, and Coach Lynn comes into my room and he says, "Hey, big guy, you're 36-0, and I lose it on him." I tell him, "Coach, what the hell did you say that for?" Right, out loud. I got another race tomorrow, right, which is the finals. And you come in here talking about 36-0, just enough time to throw the wrench in some shit and mess it all up, right? So he was trying to put the hex on me, but he said that, and then I jumped to the superstition stuff. But we had that talk, and I said, yeah. So 20, 30 minutes later, I get called to Coach Lynn and Coach Bergen's room, and Coach McEachran, and they're sitting in there, and Kevin Burke, they're sitting in there. And Coach Bergen starts off with, Dan, we've got 4 team championships in 3 years. You've run the high hurdles for us. You've run every relay we asked you to run. You got 16 Big 8 championships, 12-time All-American. You've done enough for the Cyclone Nation. If after this race you decide to go with Nike, then you have our blessing. And Coach Bergen said that, and then Coach Lynn said what he had to say. And they're basically letting me know that, I had paid my dues, and that, if there was something else that I wanted to do in the professional realm with Nike, then I had done enough for the Cyclone Nation and for them and for our team that I had their blessing to do what I felt I wanted to do. And I walked out of there with a heavy heart, but I walked out of there feeling as though, the coaches got my back. So whatever I decide to do, it's going to be okay. I had flirted with the idea of leaving after my junior year, but it by no means was set in stone. And the next night, I ran the finals of the 400 hurdles, and I won. I'm a 3-time national champion with a 37-0 record over 3 years. I'm undefeated. And what better way, to exit my Cyclone career than to do it undefeated with 3 national championships and the support of my coaches, whom I respected immensely. And I remember going across the finish line and throwing up the number 3 and turning around to Don Coleman, the brother man, and giving them the that's it. And that started my Nike journey. He asked me to stay there and not to leave with the team. And I stayed in the hotel. He came and got me. We flew up to Eugene. We talked about my contract, my first contract with Nike, and I was able to get that done for a 3-year contract. And I was officially not a Cyclone anymore. I was in the realm of the tall trees at that point. And then it was on to focusing on Mr. Moses and trying to see what I could do to eliminate his current winning streak, which at that time was about 110 races.
That's perfect.
So let's go right to it, man. Let's start talking about that.
Yeah.
What'd you do? I mean, I've heard rumors. People have told me different stories.
Yeah.
You mean the Edwin Moses story?
Yeah. All
right. So
the successes along the way. Don't brush over any successes.
Well, 1986, I came out, and we were in Amsterdam, and I was running as a professional. So I'd flown from London to the Netherlands to Amsterdam, and I went there to race Edwin, who was already there. He was the headliner of the race. They had been advertising, his presence and his appearance at the meet for quite some time. All the posters said so. These all downtown, all the way down the main avenues, pictures of Moses and this, that, and the other. And I get there, and now I'm a professional. So now I'm getting paid an appearance fee. So my appearance fee, was about $5,000, $8,000 when I first started to run a 47-second race. That was a lot of money. So I get to Amsterdam, and my appearance fee is 3 times what it usually is, because I'm going to race Edwin Moses. So I go and I negotiate. I go and I take possession of the money for my appearance, and I go downstairs, put that in the safe in the hotel. And now all I have to do is wait till the sun comes up tomorrow, and I'm going to race Mr. Moses. And the meet promoter calls me to her suite about 10 o'clock at night, and she tells me that, Mr. Moses said that if you're going to run tomorrow, that he's not going to run because we didn't inform him that you were going to come. We tried to sneak you in here. And I'm sitting in this big leather chair of this nice suite of hers, and I'm looking at her and she's looking at me, and don't know what to say except for, well, we had an agreement as well that I would come here and I would run, and I'm fit, I'm in shape, I'm here, I'm ready to run. Now you're telling me I can't run. Then I thought about something, which was, hey, possession is 9/10 of the law. So I turned around and told her after I had that epiphany that, we have this thing in America called possession being 9/10 of the law. And she said, and that means that I already paid you. I said, yes, you've already paid me to be here. So I don't know what to tell you to do, but you have to do what you think is right. So she sat there for about another 90 seconds. She finally turned to me and said, okay, Mr. Harris, you don't have to run tomorrow and you can keep the appearance fee. And then we'll just take care of it next time you come back to Amsterdam. And I told her, bet, hey, we can do that. So I kept my appearance fee. I went to a pub that was local, and I had some Heineken, and I had some fried zucchini and some mushrooms, and I watched the meet on TV. And Edwin won, and everybody was happy. He got to keep his money, and he got to keep his streak, and I got to keep my money, and I got to have fried mushrooms and a Heineken. So it was a good day for everyone. So fast forward now to 87. Now I'm 21 years old. I'm not wondering or guessing. Coach Lynn had put together a plan of attack for me as a hurdler based on what I could do in my step pattern. And we had been practicing that, and we were ready to go, and we were armed for war. So the meet promoter from Madrid, who I had run several indoor meets for him, he came to me and said, Danny, rather than going all the way around Europe to Spain and to France and to England, I have 5 or 6 meets that are here in Spain. Why don't you just stay here and run these meets, and I'll just give you one price for all the meets, and then we'll both be happy. So I did that. So when he got ready to sign Edwin for the meet in Madrid that was outdoors, he called me and he let me know that I'm very close to signing Edwin, and if I sign him, I'm going to bring you in. He said that on the phone to Steve Lynn and I in the office, and in Steve's office, and that was our plan. So that week I had, a good hurdle workout, and then I had my last hard workout, which was I ran 500 meters. I came through the quarter in 45. I'm running by myself, just me, Steve Lynn, and Kevin Burke are out there at the track. I run 500 meters in 58 seconds. I come through the quarter in 45. I wait about 8 or 10 minutes. I come back and run 33.8 for 300 meters. And I wait about another 10 minutes. I come back and run 21 flat for 200 meters. Coach Lynn looks at the watch the last time. He looks at me and he smiles. He said, hey, big guy, you're ready to run 47.5, right? And my PR at the time was 47.63. So the arrangements were made from Des Moines, Chicago, Madrid. I get on the plane in Des Moines. Steve Lynn stays at Ames. I go to Chicago. I get on a plane. I fly to Madrid. I get off the plane. They pick me up. I get to the hotel, and Edwin Moses is sitting outside on the steps of the hotel eating some gelati, some ice cream in Italian. So he's eating ice cream. He puts it in the cigarette dispenser. He goes back in the hotel. And now we've got a press conference in the hotel about tomorrow's race, which was going to be a head-to-head competition between Edwin Moses the Great and the upstart Danny Harris. So Edwin doesn't show up. His manager, Gordon Baskin, shows up. There's probably about 60 press people in the room. It's hot from the lights and all the people jammed in there. It's probably 80 degrees in the room. And I've got on a sweater, which I had bought in France, which was very nice. It looked like it was orange, but it looked like a carrot, but it was a very nice orange. And I liked it a lot. Somebody asked me, why are you wearing the sweater if it's 23 degrees Celsius, which is like 90 degrees? I said, because it's my lucky sweater. So I get a couple more questions, and I get 3 questions in a row from whom I didn't know. Gordon Baskin was Edwin's manager and had been for a long time. He asked me a couple of questions. He asked me a question about what I thought about Edwin. I immediately turned that against him, or not against him. I immediately turned around to ask him, who are you? And he said, I'm Gordon Baskin. I knew his name, but I never saw his face. And I said, you can't ask any more questions. So you can't ask any questions, right? So that was it. I took a couple more questions. I went to my room, and now it's on. So the next day I'm going to race Edwin Moses. 122 races, undefeated, 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days undefeated. Last time he lost a race, I was in the 6th grade. And none of that was lost on me because I know that the battles in 400 hurdles are always hard fought and never easily won. And Edwin's the only person to ever beat me in a race. So now it's on. The next day, all I have to do is go out and race. So the track was probably about a half mile from the hotel. So rather than getting to the transportation or the bus from the hotel, I go ahead and I walk over to the track about an hour and a half before I'm supposed to run, which is usually what I did. I wouldn't go there a couple hours. I would get there maybe an hour and a half, 90 minutes before my race is supposed to go off. I do my warm up, go ahead and run my race, then I go ahead and get out of there after that. So I get over there and Edwin's warming up in the infield. He's warming up in the infield. And I'm warming up with the rest of the athletes on what was a double soccer field up above the stadium. And all the athletes recognize what's getting ready to happen. And they're all kind of giving me my dap and wishing me luck and telling me go get him, this, that, and the other. And I'm trying to warm up and I'm trying to do what I need to do. And every time Edwin goes over a hurdle in the infield, I can hear the whole crowd, which is about 12,000 people, yelling, El Toro, El Toro. So I'm listening to this down there. I'm warming up here. So I finally get ready. I take off my wet T-shirt. I throw on my singlet with my number on it, put my jacket over the top of that, zip it up, and now I'm ready to go down to the field as they call 400-meter obstacle, which is 400-meter hurdles. So the athletes form a little gauntlet for me, and I go through, and I'm low-fiving, high-fiving. They're all wishing me luck because they want to see me win. So I get down there on the field, and there he is, Edwin Moses. My second time laying eyes on him in person since 84. Now it's 87. I'm not 18. I'm 21. I'm a grown man now. Things are different. My physical makeup is different. My mental makeup is different. I've fought a few wars on the circuit. I know what it's about. I know what this is. And it's not a test. It's not a drill. It's war right now. So I go down. It's a 6-lane track. I'm in lane 3. Edwin's in lane 5. It's only a 6-lane track. So he's on the outside of me, which is the first time that's ever happened. He's on the outside of me. Thank you, Mr. Meat Promoter, for not just getting me there, but also put me in the bird's eye seat so I can see exactly what he's doing when he's doing it. And the gun goes off, and this is really crazy, but there was a girl who used to go to Iowa State. Her name was Teresa Rayoni, and she was from Madrid, and she was on scholarship at Iowa State, 200-meter runner, and we dated for a little while. She was in the stadium, and I didn't know she was in the stadium. And when the gun goes off, she screams, "Go, Danny!" And I said to myself, that sounded like Teresa, as we take off to the first hurdle. And we get to the first hurdle, and it's faster than I'd ever gotten to the first hurdle in my life. I know this because it seemed like as soon as I left the blocks, it was right there. And I hit it. And now I'm looking 2 lanes up to Edwin, and we're going over the hurdle at the same time, which means that we're even at this point. We get to hurdle number 5, and I'm a little bit ahead. We get to hurdle number 7, and I'm thinking, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this race, right? So I'd never been that close to him. I don't think he had felt that kind of pressure in a long, long time. We get to hurdle number 8, and I'm a little bit ahead. We get to hurdle number 9, and he hits the hurdle, and I clear the hurdle, and that gave me the separation I needed, and that's how the race ended, with the same distance from him hitting the hurdle and me capitalizing on the lead and taking it to the finish line. Now, I believe that had he not hit the hurdle, I was being very conservative with my steps. I could have went 14 steps. I think I took 16 steps just to make sure I can get the leg that I wanted, number 1, and I had a chance to run in off the last hurdle, number 2. I crossed the finish line. I turn around, look at the clock. It's 47.56, 47.56. And immediately my mind goes back to, let me back up a little bit. So I clear the last hurdle, and I'm coming to the finish line, and I'm thinking, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. So what are you going to do? Edwin was always respectful, never clowned any of the competitors, me among them. So rather than throw my hands above my head in victory, I went ahead and pumped it down low with a double fist pump down low. And that was me saying, respect to Edwin, but the day is mine, right? And I won the race. And when I turned around and looked at the clock, 47:56, I thought about Coach Lynn immediately when he said, hey, big guy, you're ready to run 47.5. And he was exactly right. And I allowed Edwin to go around the track and get his salute from the crowd. And then I went over, and the mayor of Madrid was there, who was the head political figure in Madrid, was there at the meet that day because Carl Lewis and some others were there. I went over and I waved at him and I gave him a salute. He gave me a salute back. I turned around, put my stuff on, and when Edwin came around the track from getting his accolades, they were waiting for us to get together to shake hands or do whatever we were going to do. And Edwin walked over to me and I walked over to him and I said that, you're still a great champion. You know what his response was? He said, I know. He said, I know, right? And in other words, he lost the race. The streak was over. But what that meant for him is that I'm not worried about the streak anymore. Now I can focus on, my next race the same way that you can now that the streak is over and I've climbed the mountain and planted my flag. So now we were on the even plane and it was starting over. It's a new game and let's go get it. And then 3 weeks later at the World Championships, 3 months later, the World Championships in Rome, we ran the closest 400-meter hurdle race in history. And I lost by 1600ths of a second in Rome at the site of the 1960 Olympics, where the famous Wilma Rudolph ran in the Olympics in 1960. And that was it.
Here's your win.
Yeah, I think we have your win right here.
Yeah. So when I got over that last hurdle, I'm thinking, what color BMW am I going to get? Is it going to be black or is it going to be red? What's it going to be? And I'm thinking all kinds of wonderful things. But I'm thinking, first of all, I'm going to end this streak right now. I'll never forget calling home. I'll never forget calling Steve Lynn and Coach picking up the phone because it was late at night when I called from Madrid. He picked up the phone. And he said, what's up, big guy? I said, we got him, Coach. And he said, we got him. And that was it. That was the beginning of our celebration. So that night when I got back to my hotel, they had taken all my stuff out of my regular room. They had put it into a suite. They had given me a big fruit basket with everything imaginable in there. They opened up the kitchen for me to get something to eat. And I had a big old vat of spaghetti bolognese along with some clams, probably 100 clams, and then I had some champagne that they brought up, and they turned on my phone so I could call whoever I needed to call with no penalty or no phone bill. So I called Coach Lynn. I called a couple other people, let them know that I had done the deed, and that was a wonderful day. And I spent the rest of the evening eating those clams and talking to a guy from Sports Illustrated, and we drank the champagne, and he did the story on me for Sports Illustrated right there in my suite. And that was the end of that. And the next day I got back on TWA in first class, which is I had the best seat in first class. And I just went to sleep. When I woke up, we were in New York, and that was it.
Wow. Danny, wow. I don't know if I was,
you were dragging that.
Steve Lynn. And it's interesting that you say that because I remember that. Oh, sorry. You got me?
Yeah, I got you 5x5. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So the next morning, because it wasn't, we didn't have the social media like we do now, but the next morning, The headlines was a quote from Steve Lynn in the Des Moines Register in the sports page was, he got it. He got him.
Yep.
So just said, that was the headline.
And my message to Coach was, we got him. And then his message to the Des Moines Register was, he got him. So it was the same thing. And at the time, Steve was Coach Lynn was he was in Louisiana at LSU. And I remember getting there, and I remember seeing Coach for the first time. And, as an athlete, there's a bond between a coach and an athlete that is really unique, especially when you start talking about, dates on the calendar when you need to be ready to run. You need to have everything together, and you need to be as sharp as you can be on the day that's on the calendar. Steve Lynn never sent me to an athletic competition where I wasn't at my very best athletically. Now, when I got there was a whole bunch of hoopla about me having ended Edwin's streak. I remember seeing Bobby Kersey, Jackie Joyner Kersey's husband, Bob Kersey, the great Bob Kersey, the most prolific coach in Olympic history, Bob Kersey. He was just over the moon because I was the first one to beat Edwin. And he said some things to me that day, which always stuck with me. And it gave me a new perspective on what my responsibility was with regard to, trying to hold the mantle of being one of the great 400-meter intermediate hurdlers. So I did that. And then I was able to win the ABC Wide World of Sports Athlete of the Week award. And it was the same day that they had the Kentucky Derby. And I'll never forget the TV station sending a helicopter over to LSU. They landed. I got on the helicopter. That was my first helicopter ride. They flew me back to the station. We landed outside the station. I went in, and the same guy who used to say the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, whatever his name was, the commentator, he was the one that did Jim McKay. Jim McKay did the interview, and I was the ABC Athlete of the Week, and that plaque is right here on the wall. And that was a wonderful thing because that was my first real national exposure at once, besides running the Olympics. I'd never been interviewed by someone of that magnitude, and then at the Kentucky Derby at the same time. It was an awesome day, and I felt about as good as a 21-year-old could feel at that point. I felt like I had done something that was worthy of excitement and worthy of praise, and that was a great week to be Danny. That was a great week to be Danny Harris.
It's a great week to know Danny Harris. It's been always great, though. I mean,
that's right.
It was so awesome. I mean, I was at Iowa State still. I put the 8-year plan together at Iowa State, so I was there for quite a while.
Hey, Sharky, I went to school in '84. I graduated in 2010. You can do the math yourself. There you go, buddy.
Good to go.
Do you want to talk about that coming back in your degree?
Well, coming back from my degree, of course, I had been through many things. I had been through suspension from track and field twice. The first time, I was using cocaine recreationally and didn't realize that it was going to stay in my system. Thought I was okay. I failed the first test. They gave me 4 years. I came back after going to treatment. After about 2 years, I think I went to 2 or 3 treatment facilities in that 2 years, and I was able to come back, and I was okay. Everything was good. I came back and I went to Brazil, to run a meet, and I had used before I got to the meet, and I used about a week before I went to the meet, and my test came up dirty, so that was my second test, which prompted them to suspend me in forever. So I was done. So part of me was disappointed in the way that I left the sport. I was 32 years old. I was getting to the end of my career, but the relief for me was now I can deal with this problem that I had, because I didn't know it was a problem until it was a problem, until I tried to really stop and couldn't stop, right? Then I knew that I had a real issue on my hands. So that second suspension gave me an opportunity to identify and admit to myself first that I had a real problem and that I lacked the ability to control my use of cocaine, when I was going to use it, how I was going to use it, and whom I was going to use it with. I wasn't in control of that anymore. People ask me sometimes, well, why didn't you say something about it, before it got to that point? Well, you have to believe it for yourself before you can raise your hand and say, hey, I need help. I didn't believe I was in danger of losing everything, or that I had a problem, that would affect me in the ways that it did. But that was another story. Long story short, after the second suspension, I went to no less than 7 treatment centers. Some of them lasted as long as a year. Some of them were 30 days. Some of them were 9 months. So I'm going back and forth and back and forth, back and forth in treatment, sober for a year. Then I use again. Then I come back and have, 14 months sober. And then I fall off again for a day or week or month or whatever it might be. Finally, in 2007, I was downtown Los Angeles. I was homeless. And I was staying on the street called Crocker. And on Crocker Street, you could get anything you want. It was like an open air drug market. So this is downtown Los Angeles. Around the corner from Crocker, there's a place called the Midnight Mission, established in 1914. Been there over 100 years. And the Midnight Mission had 244 men in the program at the time. You couldn't be on the county or receive county assistance when you're in the program, which was a year long, but you could work in some capacity in the Midnight Mission. And the Midnight Mission was there to serve the men and women on Skid Row and families who were experiencing homelessness. So as long as you worked in some capacity at the mission, you could go and you could receive treatment, and what it had to offer with regard to its program, you could receive that for free. Fortunately for me, I got there on June the 7th, 2007. And on July the 4th, they had an outing at a local park where all the guys in the program and their families got to come, and all the staff associated with the Midnight Mission was there. So it was a big gathering at the park on the 4th of July. And then I got there on the 7th. So I had been there a little bit, about 3 weeks. And there were probably about 30 or 40 kids that were there associated with the guys in the program and the staff at the Midnight Mission. So the kids are running around tearing everything up. So what I did was I took a couple of rolls of paper towels. I made a couple of relay sticks. I took all the kids over to the baseball field away from everybody else, and I put together a little track meet for them. And they had a mountain of toys which had been donated by people who were donating things to the Midnight Mission. I used those toys to reward the boys and girls who had participated in the track meet that I put together for them. That was noticed by the director of community service at the Midnight Mission, Orlando Ward, and I was able to impress him enough that he said, rather than you having a job in the kitchen, I want you to grab a suit from donations. I want you to come with me. And what I did was I shadowed him as he did his director of communications and community relations. He allowed me to follow him around for the next 11 months at the Midnight Mission. And that exposed me to our city council. It exposed me to our mayor. It exposed me to our councilwoman for our district. And they had this thing called the Safer Cities Initiative, where the police chief and the mayor and the heads of these programs that were downtown on Skid Row, they would walk around together once a month to see what was needed with regard to ensuring the safety and welfare of the individuals that were downtown Los Angeles, who were just down there not because of drugs or alcohol, but that were down there because of their circumstance. So having been a part of that, it gave me an opportunity to use my skills in communication. It gave me an opportunity to learn the inner workings of the Midnight Mission and what a 501c3 really does and what it meant, and kind of get in touch with who I was. And that was the foundation for me being able to be sober and to stay sober in 2007. Now, when I got done with my program, I had 11 months, almost a year. And then the movie The Soloist with Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. came and was being filmed in downtown Los Angeles because one of the star of the movie, Nathaniel Ayers, who was a Juilliard-trained musician, lived across the street from the Midnight Mission. He had stayed at the Midnight Mission at one point, and I had an opportunity through my job, which was community relations. I ended up sponsoring or shadowing a lady called Patty Witcher. Miss Witcher was the executive producer on The Soloist, which was a $120 million big budget movie. I asked her, as I was meeting her and her daughter, who ended up serving Thanksgiving dinner at the Midnight Mission, I asked her before she left, after spending the day with her and her daughter, was there a spot for me on the movie? And she looked at me and she didn't give me an answer. A couple of weeks later, I get a call from the second director, and he asked me to come around the corner to Crocker, where I was homeless, 2 blocks from the Midnight Mission. And I went into this little gated thing, and it was like a big warehouse there, and it had, carpets, and it had nice sofas, and it had a food catering truck, this, that, and the other out there. And I walked in there, and Jamie Foxx was sitting there reading, going over his lines with one of the writers for the movie with the script. And the second director told me that I had been hired for the movie, He made my ID with a Polaroid camera, and I asked him what my job was. He said, well, for today, it's to stand here in front of this door and make sure nobody comes in here. He told me how much money I was going to make every week. And I turn around and a minivan pulls up, and out steps Iron Man, or Robert Downey Jr. steps out. And that was my segue from treatment into the real world. So I worked on that movie for 93 days. I made a lot of money doing that. Then I get a call from Jamie Pollard, 2008, and he lets me know that, I only have 16 hours left on my degree. If I was willing to come back. Oh, and they had done an article about me in the LA Times, which I guess it was on the wire, so everyone had a chance to see it. And he asked me, knowing that I was sober at that time, if I wanted to come back and finish my degree, that I still had a year left on my scholarship, and that he would facilitate me being able to come back and volunteer as a coach for 20 hours a week and be able to finish my degree at Iowa State University. Now, I'd never finished my degree because I was dyslexic and did not know it, and had never been tested for it. All I knew was I couldn't pass my English class, and I was having problems keeping up, with my notes in my other classes, which meant I didn't have the information coming from class or the lecture hall to be able to come home and study properly. So I got back, and thank God for Iowa State Student Services. They were committed to help me from the moment I got there. I got there, I went and got tested in Des Moines for 5 days. They diagnosed me. I ended up getting what they call peer notes. So I went to class every day and sat in the same lecture halls as I sat in as a 18-year-old. Now I'm 41 years old. I'm sitting in the same seats that I sat in before. The only difference is I'm sitting in the front seat and not up at the top. So someone else takes the notes. They give them to the professor. The professor gives the notes to me. I go home and make my flashcards. When I got back to Iowa State, my grade point average was a 1.6. 2 years later, in 2010, I graduate with a 3.1 over the time that I was there, and I take my degree from Iowa State University. Thanks to Jamie Pollard, thanks to the Iowa State Student Services, thanks to being tested, thanks to the grace of God, and thanks to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that I'm sober and able to do that and to be able to go through what I needed to go through in order to get to the other side. That's what you call a team effort, So that wasn't just me. It was me putting myself in a position to be blessed with something much greater than I ever thought. And that is to take my degree from Iowa State University, which in my mind is my greatest accomplishment as a human being thus far in my life at 60 years old. To be able to do that meant more to me than anything else, because it was a promise that I had made to my grandmother. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. And it was a promise that was fulfilled through the efforts of many people. And I'm grateful for that to this day.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
We have a kind of a hard stop here with another show coming on right behind this thing with, it's called Side of the Storm with Marcus Pfizer.
Okay.
And David Larson and Brett Kirby. They've got their show on at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock Central Time. I know there's more that I know I would like to ask a few other questions, talk about a few other things.
Why don't you just say, can we have a part 2, Danny?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
I feel like we could have part
It's
3
done,
and
bro.
4, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. It's okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. I'd love to be able to get you back on here, in another week or so, and go through, some other parts of your story, because there's some amazing. You've gone through a lot of things, and you've come out the other side as a.
That's right. Well, listen, guys. Listen, fellas. Ken and Keith, you guys have enough equity. If you guys want to do this again next week, a week from today, I'm fine with that. Just let me know. Take care of your other show. I don't have a problem talking about, where I've been, because it makes me who I am today, and I'm okay with who I am today. So if we do part 2, I'd be more than happy to participate in that. And you guys just let me know. Once a Cyclone, always a Cyclone.
From this loyal son to that loyal son and that loyal son. Love you, buddy.
Love you guys too. Be good.
See you, man.
We're tracking the storm, watching it form from Crutchfield's grind to Trophy 2K storms. Seneca spinning through the rain and roar, turning third and long to forevermore. From Jack's I will to the Campbell years, we build up hope out of heartbreaking tears. Yeah, the line holds strong and fist up in the air. Tonight's show theme and that Hilton stare. Took a quiet Coliseum, turned it into a spare, where top 25 giants learned to fear this well. Hilton magic swirling like a cyclone wind, where nine on the pivot made the rafters spin. Step back jumper, drive down the lane.